Peeta Mellark serves as the moral conscience of the reader and of Panem in the Hunger Games. Today, we will take a deeper look into his life. This analysis is based strictly on book-canon. The Hunger Games can be interpreted as an allegory, a narrative that communicates a deeper meaning beneath its surface. A conscience is an internal, cognitive, and emotional process that acts as a moral compass, guiding an individual to distinguish between right and wrong. Peeta was written as one, and he makes both us and Panem question choices. This analysis will examine both Peeta's life and the message embedded within the story. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lucy. I'm happy to have you, and I hope you stick around. Peeta Mellark belongs to the marching class of District 12, situated in the town, in contrast to Katniss, who was raised in the district poorest area. Peeta grew up in a comparatively better off environment, though he still lived in poverty. He has two unnamed older brothers, and Peeta is the youngest. His mother is not a very kind person, and she abused him. His father is much kinder. We do not get much details about the Mellark family, but we know the love within it was not strong enough to trigger a volunteer from any of his brothers, although it is possible they had already aged out of the games. Peeta also never really talks about them during the games. It almost seems as though his life becomes centered on Katniss' survival, while also reminding us, the readers and Panem, of the cruelty of the games and of the danger of losing our humanity while being entertained. Peeta is the heart of the Hunger Games trilogy, and that is why his role matters. We first meet Peeta on Reaping Day when his name is drawn. He had terrible luck, which is why he was chosen, even though his name appeared only 5 times in the Reaping Bowl, compared to Gale's 42. His family was relatively stable, so Peeta had no need to take extra tesserae, the grain and oil provided in exchange for additional entries. He only had the compulsory entries required from the age of 12. As a result, at 16 years old, his name appeared just 5 times in the Reaping for the 74th Hunger Games, yet he was still chosen over others with far more entries. However, this was not the first time Katniss knew him or the first time Peeta had seen Katniss. Peeta had a crush on Katniss from the time they were 5 years old, the very first day of school. She wore a red plaid dress and her hair was in 2 braids instead of 1. He remembers his father pointing her out and mentioning that he had wanted to marry her mother, but she ran off with a coal miner because when he sings, the birds stop to listen. We already know his Bodok ever did. That memory stayed with Peeta. And this is also why Peeta's father cares for Katniss, and especially Panem, always buying their game or goat cheese in exchange for bread. Later, during the music assembly, the teacher asks who knows the Valley song. Katniss raises her hand immediately. She is lifted onto a stool and sings for the class. Peeta remembers that moment vividly, how the birds outside the window seem to fall silent as if they were listening to. And when her song ends, he knows, just like his father, that he is far too gone in this love crush. For the next 11 years, Peeta tries to gather the courage to speak to her, but never can. In a strange way, he later says that his name being drawn at the Reaping felt like a piece of luck, because at last he would truly be seen by her. Peeta has always been surrounded by a crowd of friends at school. His personality represents a form of masculinity many people admire. When Peeta is raped, Katniss questions why it had to be him, then tries to convince herself it does not matter. Peeta is not even my friend, she tells herself, not even a neighbor. We do not speak, our only real interaction was the bread moment. He has probably forgotten it, but I have not, and I know I never will. This is Katniss fighting within herself, trying to block out Peeta, who represents the conscience. Katniss recognizing Peeta's good act as something she will never forget is the right of the conscience. Katniss trying to block this, telling herself that Peeta must have forgotten, is the wrong of the conscience. The bread moment happened when Katniss was just 11 years old. Prim was only 7. Katniss could not sign up for tesserae because of her age, and her family was starving. Her father had died 3 months earlier in a coal mine explosion, and her mother had spiraled into deep grief and depression. The district provided a small compensation, barely enough to support them for 1 month. After that, her mother was expected to work, but she could not. She remained lost in grief, unmoving, unreachable. No amount of pleading from Prim seemed to reach her. Katniss was grieving too, but she knew she had to become the provider or they would starve. She hid her struggle, forcing herself to appear strong, because if the authorities discovered her mother could no longer care for them, she and Prim would be taken to a community home, and that was not an option. But the money ran out and they began to starve. All Katniss needed was a few more months to turn 12 and qualify for tesserae, but she feared she might die before then. For 3 days, all they had was boiled water with dried mint leaves. Katniss went to the hub to trade Prim's old baby clothes, but no one would take them. Weak and shaking from hunger, she wandered towards the marching section where the richer families lived. She considered stealing, but theft in District 12 was punishable by death. Desperate, she searched the bins for anything, a bone, rotten vegetables, anything, but they had already been emptied. She passed the bakery. The smell of fresh bread overwhelmed her, making her dizzy. Rain began to fall. She lifted the bin off the bakery bin. Empty. Peter's mother shouted at her to move away or she would call the peacekeepers. Peter stood behind his mother, watching. Afterward, Katniss staggered to the far side of the yard and collapsed beneath an old apple tree. Realizing she had nothing to take home, she felt numb, ready for death, or for the authorities to take them away. And in that moment of desperation, Peter appeared. He had burned 2 loaves of bread, earning a beating from his mother, who ordered him to throw the ruined bread to the pigs. Instead, he gave the burnt portion to the pigs and threw the rest of the bread to Katniss. This act of quiet compassion became Peter's first true impression on Katniss. It also shapes the reader's conscience, urging us to root for him. More importantly, it gives Katniss a moral reason to stand with Peter rather than against him. In many ways, Peter is the reason she survives that period of starvation, and she carries a lasting sense of debt towards him. After the reaping, Peter's father comes to say goodbye to Peter, and he also visits Katniss, giving her cookies. Cookies are a luxury she cannot afford. He also promises that he will make sure Prim does not go hungry. During their train ride to the capital, Katniss fears Peter's kindness and decides not to get close to the baker's son. In that moment of decision, she throws away the cookies his father gave her and shuts the train window, but the cookies land and burst open in a patch of dandelions by the train tracks. The sight reminds her of years earlier, when she saw a dandelion after turning away from Peter's bruised face and realized that hope was not lost. That bruised face was the result of the beating he received from his mother for burning the bread he secretly gave her. Peter was the reason she noticed the dandelion, and she went to the meadow with a bucket to gather more. That dandelion, along with Peter's bread, sustained her and her family for days. It was this same dandelion that gave her the hope to sneak beyond the fence and find food and gain for survival. Peter, who represents the conscience, played a major part in Katniss' survival before the 74th Hunger Games. Peeta Mellark gave her hope and the dandelion that reminded her she was not doomed. Ever since then, Katniss believes she owes him, and she hates owing people. She believes that if she had thanked him back then, she would not feel so conflicted now. So she wonders whether being thrown into the same arena might finally bring about that long-delayed thank you. Hamish Abernathy is Peter and Katniss' mentor for the games, but he is lost in drinking and cannot focus on giving them proper mentorship. Peter does not know Hamish well. The only time he has likely seen him is during the reaping each year, which is why he first notes that Hamish is drunk every year, before Katniss corrects him, saying he is drunk every day. When Hamish trips and falls into his own vomit, Peter offers to clean him up himself rather than leave it to the capital servants, as Katniss suggests. This act of kindness further reveals his character. He feels pity for Hamish's frustration and chooses to help him personally. This becomes his first step as a conscience, guiding Hamish's moral compass back towards helping them. Peter is strategic in the games. He is skilled in conscience manipulation, and he's a very good liar. Some of the lies he tells are designed to make both the capital and the reader question the cruelty of the games and of war itself. When they arrive at the capital, Katniss and Peter move closer to the window to watch its grandeur. The brightly colored hair, the painted faces. As people begin pointing excitedly, recognizing the tribute train, Katniss steps away. She finds it sickening to watch. Peter, however, holds his ground. He smiles and waves at the crowd, continuing until the train pulls into the station. When Katniss stares at him, he shrugs and says, "Who knows? One of them may be rich." It is a calculated move, part of his strategy to gain sponsors. Peter is playing on the Capitol's emotions, getting them to know him and recognize him as someone to root for. Katniss misunderstands this and begins to distrust him. Before opening up about his crush on Katniss on live television, Peter tries to understand the extent of her relationship with Gil. Being deeply emotional, he needs to know whether Katniss is romantically involved with him. Before their private session with the game makers and even before their interview with Caesar Flickerman, Peter asked Katniss, "Your friend Gil, he's the one who took your sister away after the ripping." Katniss replies, "Yes. Do you know him?" she asks. "Not really," Peter says. "I hear the girls talk about him a lot. I thought he was your cousin or something. You favor each other." Katniss responds, "No, we are not related." Peter asks again, "Did he come to say goodbye to you?" Katniss answers, "Yes, So did your father. In that moment, Peeta is quietly probing, trying to understand the nature of Katniss' relationship with Gil. If Gil were a romantic partner, Katniss would not have equated him saying goodbye with Peeta's father doing the same. That answer gives Peeta what he needs to execute his next strategy, one that would not have worked if Gil were confirmed as a romantic partner. Peeta admires Katniss' hunting skills, praises her ability in front of Haymitch, and even confesses how much he enjoys the squirrel she sells. This is his way of drawing Haymitch's attention and encouraging him to mentor them properly. Peeta continues to leave a strong impression on Katniss, quietly rooting himself in her life. First, he risks a beating to give her bread. Later, he covers for her when she almost reveals that she recognizes the redhead Avox girl, something that should not be known in the districts. He also helps Haymitch recognize Katniss' hunting skills. He often underestimates himself, questioning what use his strength will be in the arena. Katniss corrects him and boosts his morale by telling him he will likely excel in hand-to-hand combat. Peeta is also skilled in decorating cakes, which he transfers into an ability to camouflage during training before the games. This camouflage ability helps keep him alive in the arena. Peeta is the one who tells Katniss Rue's name during a training session after Katniss mentions that the girl reminds her of Prim. Details matter because even though Peeta is not part of Rue's journey in the arena, giving her a name within the conscience builds an emotional journey that includes him. During Peeta's private session with the game makers, he does not receive much attention. He simply throws some heavy weights around until they tell him to stop. That earns him a score of 8. Respectable, but not high enough to draw strong sponsor attention. Although Katniss and Peeta initially agreed to be coached together by Haymitch, Peeta chooses to train separately afterward. His decision may be influenced by Haymitch and by his intention to reveal his true feelings during his interview with Caesar Flickerman to gain sponsorship, or perhaps he already has a plan to join the careers, both to increase his chances of survival and to protect Katniss. Knowing the only way to do that is to make her doubt him and keep her at a distance. During his interview with Caesar Flickerman, Peeta confesses that he has had a crush on Katniss for a long time. When Caesar asks if the girl has someone else, Peeta says he does not know, adding that many boys like her. Caesar tells him that if he wins and goes home, she will not be able to turn him down. Peeta responds that winning will not help his case because she's there in the arena with him. In this moment, Peeta appeals directly to the conscience of the Capitol audience, forcing them to confront the cruelty of the games. At the same time, it secures sponsorship. Caesar ends the interview by saying, "Best of luck to you, and I think I speak for all of Panem when I say our hearts go with yours." In that moment, Peeta succeeds in winning over the audience. His actions make Katniss more desirable in their eyes. Although Katniss does not take it well at first, she later regrets how she treats him. Peeta enters the games with a clear mindset. He says he wants to die as himself. "I don't want them to change me in there, turn me into some kind of monsters that I'm not." Before the gong sounds, just as the games are about to begin, Peeta looks at Katniss and shakes his head. He has already joined the carriers, and he does not want Katniss to run towards the cornucopia and be slaughtered. He's trying to discourage her so she can run and create distance, just as Haymitch advised. He succeeds in distracting her, and she loses a few seconds, but Katniss, being Katniss, still runs towards the cornucopia. She cannot stand leaving empty-handed. After the battle at the cornucopia, when enough distance lies between Katniss and the others, Katniss wonders if Peeta has died. She keeps thinking about him until she hears his voice with the carriers. Peeta plays the role of a carrier tribute to protect her because the carriers see her as a threat and want her eliminated. Meanwhile, Katniss believes he has truly joined them to hunt and kill as a pack. What Katniss does not understand yet is that Peeta is playing a role. The carriers see Katniss as a threat and want her eliminated. Peeta joins them to redirect that danger, to buy her time and to protect her. From Katniss' perspective, however, this looks like Peeta choosing survival over her. While traveling with the carriers, Peeta later finishes off the female tribute from District 8, the girl who had lit the fire near where Katniss was hiding. The girl was badly injured by the carriers. They believed she was already dead and waited for her cannon to sound. When it didn't, Peeta volunteered to finish her off. Peeta ends her life as an act of mercy, not cruelty. As a conscience, he believes he's sparing her prolonged pain. It is the first death Peeta directly causes in the arena, and it is framed as compassion within a brutal system. Katniss overhears the carriers talking about Peeta helping them hunt her, and the sense of betrayal deepens. She also begins to worry about sponsorship. If Peeta is seen as a carrier, will the audience turn against them? Will the star-crossed lovers narrative collapse? But Peeta understands something Katniss doesn't yet. Sponsors mean nothing if Katniss is dead. Protecting her survival matters more than how things look on screen. Later, Katniss drops the Tracker Jacker nest on the carriers to escape them. The attack leaves her weak and hallucinating from the Tracker Jacker venom and unable to defend herself. In that moment, Peeta intervenes. He tells her to run. That is when Katniss begins to realize that Peeta is not entirely against her. Because of this, Cato turns on Peeta and slashes him badly. It is a deep wound, dangerous, possibly fatal. Peeta knowingly risks her life to save Katniss. It's also Peeta's words that inspire Katniss' act with Rue. Before the games, Peeta said he wanted to show the Capitol that they did not own him, and he was more than a piece in their games. After Rue is killed, Katniss decorates her body with flowers. That act of dignity, humanity, and defiance echoes Peeta's belief, carried out through Katniss. I also believe the rule change during the games happened for a deliberate reason. When Claudius Templesmith announces that two tributes from the same district may win the 74th Hunger Games, it may not have been generosity, but strategy. At that point, the game makers had lost track of Peeta. He was camouflaged so perfectly in the mud and foliage that he had almost disappeared. If Katniss were killed and the remaining tributes eliminated, finding Peeta would have been difficult and boring to watch. A victor must be seen. The games depend on spectacle. Even though every tribute carried a tracker, Peeta remaining hidden for days would have risked stagnation and uncertainty in the games. The only voice Peeta might respond to was Katniss. Even while hidden, he whispered her name in his sleep. That emotional pull combined with the Capitol's attachment to the star-crossed lover's narrative likely contributed to the rule change. Announcing two victors served two purposes: drawing Peeta out and reviving the emotional storyline the Capitol audience craved. Katniss eventually finds Peeta camouflaged in the mud, gravely wounded and barely alive. Despite everything, she chooses to care for him, washing his wounds, tending his fever, and keeping him alive. Hamish sends them small pot of broth. The broth is crucial because Peeta is struggling to ingest solid food. At one point, Peeta asks Katniss to tell him a happy story. Most of Katniss' truly happy memories involve Gale, but she cannot speak about Gale, neither emotionally nor strategically. Instead, she tells Peeta about Prim and the gold she bought for her 10th birthday. Even here, Katniss must alter the truth. She cannot reveal that she hunts illegally beyond the fence with Gale, the act that allowed her to afford the goat. She says she sold her mother's locket instead. Later, once Katniss and Peeta reach the final 8, reporters are sent to District 12. When asked about Katniss' friends, many people point to Gale, but this does not support the Capitol's romance narrative, so the district quietly present Gale as Katniss' cousin. When Claudius Templesmith announces the feast at the cornucopia where each remaining tribute can retrieve the one thing they desperately need, Katniss immediately knows this is for Peeta's medicine. When she tells him she plans to go, Peeta insists on coming despite his condition. Katniss pretends to agree but makes him promise to eat and drink everything she brings back if he truly wants her to stay. A parachute arrives from Hamish containing sleeping syrup. Katniss uses it to put Peeta to sleep and goes to the cornucopia alone, risking her life entirely for his. The medicine works. Peeta recovers enough to move, though his leg remains injured but survivable. While gathering food later, Peeta unknowingly picks nightlock berries, deadly poisonous, and offers them to Katniss. She recognizes them immediately from her father's teachings. Then a cannon fires. Foxface has stolen the berries, eaten them, and died. This becomes the second person unknowingly killed as a result of Peeta's actions. Towards the end of the games, wolf-like moths with human faces are released. During the final fight, Cato puts Peeta in a headlock on top of the cornucopia. A moth sinks its fang into Peeta's already injured leg, and he loses a dangerous amount of blood. Katniss shoots Cato's hand. Peeta shoots him backwards, and he falls where the moths are. Cato does not die immediately. His suffering is prolonged. Peeta is bleeding badly and needs the games to end. Katniss finishes Cato with her final arrow. Then the rule is suddenly reversed. The Capitol wants more entertainment to see how the lover story will end. Peeta pulls a knife from his belt and Katniss raises her arrow towards him. But Peeta is not aiming at Katniss. He throws the knife into the lake and begs her to kill him. He does not want to be torn apart if the moths return. When Katniss refuses, Peeta tries to rip off his bandage to bleed out. Katniss protests desperately. Then Katniss tells him to trust her. She takes out the nightlock berries, offering death for both of them. They gamble that the Capitol will not allow a games with no victor, and they are right. They are stopped and declared joint victors. After the games, Katniss and Peeta return to the Capitol as victors, but victory does not bring relief. Peeta loses his left leg due to severe blood loss and injury, caused initially by Cato and worsened by the moth attack. He is fitted with a prosthetic left leg, and this injury contributes to some of the physical weakness and difficulties he later experiences in the future games. On the train ride home, the thought of seeing Gale within hours makes Katniss' stomach churn. She feels guilty guilty as though she has been lying to two people who trust her. She walks with Peeta through the train, past the cameras. Hamish congratulates them and tells them to keep the act going in District 12 until the cameras are gone. Peeta does not understand what he means at first, until Katniss explains that Hamish has been coaching her on how to play the role, how to perform their relationship so they do not make things worse. And in that moment, Peeta realizes something devastating. For Katniss, much of it was strategy. For him, it never was. The realization wounds him deeply because what he confessed in the arena was never an act. It was his truth. Back in District 12, Katniss reunites with Gil. He kisses her and says, "I had to do that at least once." Katniss does not realize that President Snow is still watching. Snow later visits Katniss and shows her footage of the kiss. He tells her she must do more. She must convince him and all of Panem that she is truly and desperately in love with Peeta. Otherwise, he will kill Gil and everyone she loves. The relationship between Katniss and Peeta is already strained by the revelation that much of what happened in the arena was performance. Now Katniss is trapped by fear. She cannot bring herself to tell Peeta the truth, that Snow has threatened Gil's life if she fails to convince him that her love for Peeta is real and not an act. So she keeps the secret to herself, waiting for the right moment to tell him everything. While Katniss struggles with PTSD, Peeta copes differently. He paints his nightmares. When he shows Katniss his paintings, his experiences in the arena, she cannot bear to look at them. They remind her too much of the games. Peeta also helps Katniss work on her family plans book. He fills page after page with careful ink drawings of plans, each labeled, each explained, each listing its medical use. Katniss' father had once added sections on edible plants. That book had guided Katniss after her father's death, helping her keep her family alive. Peeta continues that legacy. During the victory tour in District 11, Katniss freezes. The memory of Rue and Trash overwhelm her and she cannot speak. Peeta steps forward and promises that they will give 1 month of their winnings to Rue's and Trash family every year for as long as they live. After Katniss finally speaks, the crowd begins the Mockingjay whistle, a sign of respect and defiance. The peacekeepers execute the man who starts it, and others are killed as well. Katniss and Peeta are rushed away, and Hamish takes them to the part of the building where there are no cameras. Peeta's promise becomes an act of defiance, even though he does not realize it at the time. He has been kept in the dark about President Snow's threat. Katniss explains everything, Snow's threat, Gil, and the case. Peeta is furious that both Katniss and Hamish kept him in the dark. He reminds them that he also has a family to protect, and that this knowledge would have changed his actions in District 11. Although Katniss agrees with Peeta's decision to support Rue's and Trash family, the truth is that Peeta was acting without crucial information, and he could have made different choices if he had known. Peeta also confronts Hamish. He points out that Hamish never really sent him gifts in the arena, not until Katniss found him. When Hamish tries to argue, Peeta stops him. He admits that if Hamish had to choose between the two of them, it should have been Katniss, but this was different. People died in District 11 because Peeta was kept in the dark, and more people will die unless they perform perfectly. Hamish promises that from now on, he will be told everything. Later, Peeta apologizes to Katniss for yelling. He admits that he too has kept things from her in the past, and he understands that she was acting under Hamish's instruction. Then he asks her quietly, "Was that really the only time you kissed Gil?" Katniss says yes. Back at the training center, Katniss suggests they stage a public marriage proposal. Peeta agrees, but afterward, he withdraws and leaves the room. Hamish tells Katniss to leave him alone. He explains that Peeta wanted it to be real. Later, Peeta proposes to Katniss on stage with Caesar Flickerman beside him. Broadcast to all of Panem, President Snow comes to congratulate them. Katniss believes this will finally be enough. It isn't. So she begins planning an escape from District 12. She asks Peeta to come with her and he agrees. But everything changes when Gil is whipped by a peacekeeper. Peeta, Katniss and Hamish intervene. Afterward, Katniss promises she will never leave Gil again. She abandons the escape plan and later kisses Gil on that promise. When Peeta returns and finds Katniss asleep beside Gil, he is visibly sad, but he says nothing. He gently tells Katniss to go to bed. He will stay and watch over Gil. Katniss tries to explain about the change of plans, about not running anymore. Peeta simply says he knows. For a brief moment, Katniss realizes how much Peeta has always been there for her and how little she has given in return. Guilt settles in. No matter what she chooses, someone will hurt. That night, Katniss wishes Peeta were there to hold her and then reminds herself she's not supposed to want that. She has chosen Gil. She has chosen the rebellion. A future with Peeta feels like the Capitol's design, not her own. Soon after, the rules for the third Quarter Quell are announced. This time, the tributes will be chosen from the victors. Katniss will be sent back into the arena with either Hamish or Peeta. Peeta decides it should be him. He makes a pact with Hamish. If Hamish's name is called, Peeta will volunteer in his place, but Katniss makes her own decision. If Peeta is chosen first, then both she and Hamish will do everything to keep him alive. This time, it is Peeta's turn to be saved. On Reaping Day, Hamish's name is called. Peeta keeps his promise. He volunteers. Katniss, the only living female victor from District 12, is chosen automatically, and just like that, they are taken again, without even the chance to say goodbye to their families. Every night before the Quarter Quell, Katniss, Peeta, and Hamish watch old Hunger Games recaps. They study past arenas, past strategies, past deaths, preparing themselves for what is coming. Hamish advises them to make allies. Katniss and Peeta decide otherwise. They will have only one ally, each other. During Peter's interview with Caesar Flickerman, he makes a shocking announcement. Katniss is with child. It's not just strategy. Once again, Peeta is speaking directly to the conscience of the Capitol, forcing them to confront the cruelty of sending a pregnant girl into the arena. The audience reacts immediately. The discomfort is visible. The outrage is real. In his private session with the game makers, Peeta paints Rue, just as Katniss had decorated her body with flowers in death. It is a quiet act of defiance, a message without words, a reminder that the tribbles are not objects or pieces in a game, but human beings. Peeta receives a score of 12, the highest score possible. It makes Hunger Games history, but a 12 does only one thing. It paints a target on his back. Inside the arena, Peeta is struck by the force field. His heart stops. Finnick drags him away and restarts his heart, pulling him back from death. This incident, coupled with Peter's prosthetic leg, leaves him too weak for the games. He needs support just to keep moving. Later, Mark sacrifices herself so Peeta can leave because Finnick can only support one person at a time. When a monkey moth leaps from the tree straight towards Peter's heart, the Morpheline from District 6 throws herself in front of him, almost like an embrace, and the moth's fangs sink into her chest instead. She dies protecting him. Peeta later kills Brutus, the male tribute from District 2, moments after Brutus kills Chaff, the male tribute from District 11, who was Hamish's friend. As the arena begins to unravel, the wire guiding Katniss back to Peeta is caught. The wire was part of Beatty's camouflage plan. He led them to believe it could be used with the Lightning 3 to kill the remaining carriers, although that was never the true plan. The real objective was to destroy the arena itself. When the wire cuts, Peeta panics. He cannot find Katniss. He's separated from the one person anchoring him in the chaos. Then Katniss destroys the arena, driven by rage and desperation when she cannot find Peeta. Peeta is taken, captured by the Capitol. President Snow destroyed District 12. None of Peeta's family escaped. In the Capitol, Peeta is held in a cell near Joanna Mason. It is not a good experience. They both hear screams of torture, though Peeta endures far worse. Back in District 13, Peeta appears on screen during a Capitol broadcast. He looks unharmed, healthy. It shocks Katniss. It shocks everyone. Caesar Flickerman asks Peeta to describe the arena. For the first time, all of Panem hears what it's truly like to be inside the games. When Caesar tells him that Katniss destroys the arena, Peeta immediately defends her. He insists she did not know. He says none of them could fully understand Beatty's plan. He reminds them that she was still trying to figure out what to do with the wire. Again and again, Peeta protects Katniss. Caesar asks about Hamish. Peeta says Hamish never mentioned anything. Then he asks quietly that maybe he should not have trusted him. Caesar asks Peeta about the war. Peeta calls for a ceasefire. He warns that if humans continue destroying one another, there may be no humanity left after all. The rebels in District 13 are furious. They see it as betrayal, but Peeta does not yet know the full truth. He does not know District 12 has burned. He does not know his family is dead, and still in his own way, he's trying to protect Katniss and Panem, choosing love over rebellion. In District 13, Katniss makes a pact with President Coin. If the rebels win, Peeta and the captured victors must be spared. Gale and the rebel leaders do not take this well, but they need Katniss as the Mockingjay. They agree. Despite Peeta's controversial interview, people in the district reassures Katniss. They believe Peeta is speaking under duress. Days later, Katniss and Finnick see Peeta again on screen. This time, the change is unmistakable. He is thinner, weaker. The Capitol hides it with makeup, but they cannot hide the bags under his eyes or the pain in his movements. Peeta has been tortured. It becomes clear that the earlier broadcast was not recent. Caesar asks Peeta about the rumors that Katniss is filming Propose. Peeta responds quietly, they are using her. He says he doubts she even knows what is truly at stake. Then Caesar asks if he has a message for Katniss. Peeta looks directly into the camera. He tells her not to be a fool, to think for herself. He warns that they have turned her into a weapon, one that could destroy humanity. If she truly has influence, she should use it to stop the war. He urges her to question the people around her, to ask whether she really knows what is happening. Those words stay with Katniss not as orders but as conscience. The rebel leadership hides this purpose from Katniss, claiming it is to protect her, but Katniss has already seen it, and when they try to hide the truth, something breaks, a crack forms. She begins to question who she can truly trust. Peeta appears again on screen, calling for a ceasefire, speaking about destruction, about broken cities and shattered systems. Then Katniss interrupts the broadcast, standing in the ruins of the bakery. The signal calls back to Peeta. Snow asks him if he has a message for Katniss. Peeta looks straight into the camera and asks how she thinks this will end. What will be left? He tells her no one is safe, not in the capital, not in the district, not in 13. And then he wants her dead by morning. Even in his suffering, Peeta is still trying to save them. This is crucial information, a warning that District 13 is about to be attacked by the capital. It is one of Peeta's most heroic moments. He does this while being watched by Snow, knowing he will be tortured for it. Seconds later, Peeta is struck down. He collapses, blood hits the floor. And after that moment, the real torture begins. His mind is broken, rewritten, hijacked. Following the failed capital attack on District 13, Gale and a group of rebels are sent on a rescue mission into the capital to retrieve Peeta, Joanna and Annie. Katniss and Finnick distract the capital with another propos. The mission works too easily, too clean, almost planned. Peeta is brought back to District 13. Katniss goes to see him immediately to make sure he's okay, to welcome him home. For a moment, everything feels like it might be okay. Then Peeta attacks. He wraps his hands around Katniss' throat. There is no hesitation, no recognition. He would have killed her if bugs had not struck him down in time. That is when they understand Peeta has been hijacked. The capital used Tracker venom not to kill him, but to rewrite him. They took every memory of Katniss and twisted it. Love becomes fear. Safety becomes terror. Katniss becomes the enemy. District 13 try everything to help Peeta recover, every treatment, every memory exercise. They bring Daly, his childhood friend, hoping something familiar might reach him. For a moment, it almost works until Peeta asks why they are not home. Why none of his family have come to visit. Daly tells him the truth. District 12 is gone. It was burned. His family did not survive. Peeta spirals back into the hijacked state, blaming Katniss for the destruction of District 12. Daly tries to defend her. Peeta snaps violently. To him, Katniss is no longer Katniss. She's a moth, a monster. President Snow is not finished. On live television, he executes Peeta's stylist and his prep team. Katniss cannot bear the thought that Peeta may never recover. She throws herself into the rebellion and travels to District 2. There she's shot. When she returns to District 13, Hamish tells her there has been progress with Peeta. They showed him a video of Katniss singing The Hanging Tree. That song was never aired. It was never part of the capital's altered memories. Peeta never saw Katniss sing it, but he recognizes it. He remembers Katniss' father singing it one day at the bakery when he came to trade. He remembers watching to see if the birds would stop singing, and they did. Peeta was 6 or 7 years old then. That memory, untouched by hijacking, becomes hope. It is the first real connection back to Katniss that the capital could not corrupt. Although there is progress, Peeta remains difficult to be around, still confused, still volatile. He helps decorate Finnick's wedding cake. Later, he tells Finnick to be nice to Annie, or he might try to take her away from him. Finnick snaps back, reminding Peeta that he restarted his heart. Daly intervenes, reminding Peeta that Finnick saved his life more than once. Peeta responds coldly. For Katniss, for the rebellion, not for me. I don't owe him anything. That is when Katniss loses her temper. Max is dead, she tells him, and you are still here. That should count for something. Peeta is disoriented, lashing out. He questions whether Katniss and Gale are together or whether they are still dragging out the star-crossed lovers act for the camera. Even Gale is stunned by his behavior. As readers, we do not fault Peeta. His memories have been violently altered. On the mission to seize control of the capital, they meet Tigris, who offers them shelter. Eventually, they decide to split up. Peeta is left behind with Tigris, Cressida, and Pollux, with plans to follow later because capital citizens are expected to move into the shelter where Tigris is hiding. Before they separate, Gale gives Peeta his nightlock pills, just in case he's captured. Peeta still asks, what about you? Even in his confused state, Peeta worries about Gale, about what will happen to him if he were captured. Later, Peeta is burned by the same fire that killed Panem. He survives. After the capital falls, President Coin proposes a new Hunger Games, this time using capital children. Peeta votes no. Furious, direct, uncompromising, he reminds them that this is why they rebelled in the first place. When Katniss kills Coin instead of Snow, she immediately reaches for the nightlock pills. Peeta stops her. He refuses to let go. As Katniss struggles, he rips the pocket away from her clothes. The pill falls to the ground and is crushed. He saves Katniss' life once again. Later, Peeta returns to District 12 to join Katniss. He brings her a primrose flower to plant, in memory of Panem. Peeta begs Katniss' hands. They grow back together, they have children, and they create a book, one that helps them explain what happened in a way their children can understand. A book meant not to frighten them, but to make them braver. As an artist, Peeta turns their pain, their memories, and their survival into something tangible. Peter represents the dandelion in the spring, the promise that life can go on no matter how much has been lost. While Gil was the fire that fueled the rebellion, Peter was the earth that allowed things to grow again once the fire died down. This is the life of Peeta Mellark. Thank you so much for watching. Your thoughts are welcomed in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.